Hi, my name's Paul and this is PJT Ventures. Join me while I ramble on like an empty dump truck. Today's ramble, we got the I can hardly keep my composure. Pretty exciting. So we got the TD9 up and running here the last couple of episodes, and then I did a quick little addition. This only had a single acting set of hydraulics. There wasn't a second circuit. So I added a second circuit. Looks like I forgot to put the fill plug back in, the air release fill plug. It's somewhere now. Anyway, so I put a second set. This was all original, this stuff, but I just tied into the original loader arms, and then of course I put on some old used breakaway. Look at that. I put on some, just kind of pieced and patched together what I could find. And then, of course, hooked it up to the Bucyrus Erie scraper. Now, we've had this scraper for years. My brother and I fixed it up many, many years ago, maybe 15, 18 years ago. He put some new tires on it, and then I made up these cylinders. They were just... It used to have the great big, beautiful cast Bucyrus Erie right in the side, huge hydraulic cylinders, and the one cast body had blown out. I don't know if it got water in it or something, and so, of course, back then we didn't realize the significance of keeping that beautiful cast piece. But anyway, so I just bought cylinders that had this much stroke, that matched the stroke of the original unit, and then I just added in this. I just welded in this spacer and made a new bushing or a new pin or a new bore here, just to mimic the stroke and the overall length of the original ones. And then really that's all we've done to it, was just the tires and the cylinders. It is the perfect size for this dozer. I mean, it just fills it up. I mean, you look, we were taking some, I think I got to change the hitch to the lower setting, because there was a couple of times where I had no more digging depth and I was relying on the tires to find somewhere lower on either side to get it to dig in on these last couple of cuts. When I was taking like 2/3 of a cut of fresh and having this wheel drop in, then it was no problem. So that's something I could do. That hitch you can flip and kind of, you know, make different adjustments. But yeah, boy, does this thing ever work good. And then of course it has all in one feature: scraping, hauling, dumping. And yeah, so I'm not really sure. I haven't been able to find any information on what year it is. So it's a G as in I don't know, what's the call out for G again? A G38, and here's the serial number. So it's a 69230, and this machine built at Evansville Industries. So looks like there was a bunch of different places. So general offices, South Milwaukee; plants, South Milwaukee, Erie, Evansville, and Chicago. So if anybody has any serial numbers or years. And then another cool old thing here, and I don't quite know what this says: Industrial Road Equipment International. And then Hugh and Draught, Calgary, Edmonton, Lethbridge, Dawson Creek, BC. Oh, I wonder what all this says. From the border to the something. Cool. Anyways, pretty cool. Pretty awesome. I'm really excited how well the crawler's working, or the dozer's working. I still gotta find a proper cap here, but yeah, what a powerhouse. What a powerhouse. This is a 1953, and yeah, it's working really good. It's working really good. Hopefully I can find some tracks, because they are rough, but you can't fix what you don't have. Anyways, thanks again for joining me. I think this was a perfect little test run. I got a couple little jobs coming up that I think will be perfect for this thing, so stay tuned. And yeah, thanks again for joining me, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye for now.